Oh, that means you don't like it, huh?
Hello and welcome to the first episode of Kickin It Down Under with me, Joanne Doonan.
And myself, Meg Ryan.
Woo, you got it first. So today we are going to start talking about why we're starting a podcast, I suppose our journey to Australia, and just how we became roommates, how we met each other, and how we ended up here, basically.
Life in general.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think it was my idea to start a podcast, was it?
Yeah, you were mad keen for a podcast.
To be honest, I just think we're so funny.
Why would we starve the people from the funniest schools in Melbourne? Nah.
I actually just I love listening to podcasts, love doing podcasts. So I was like, why not create our own? And I would only love to do it with one person, and you're sitting right beside me, Joey.
Would you say I'm your best friend?
No.
Good, because I wouldn't say the same. No, I suppose too. Like, we both kind of talked about it for a long time, and I suppose weren't really able to do anything about it, or just didn't prioritize it. And the lovely Orla from the Sideline Live came across, basically came to us with this opportunity, and so we are excited to see how this goes. So we would love your feedback as we go. So I feel we are probably in a niche. I kind of like the idea of a podcast in that we've probably a different perspective, that there's plenty of AFL men that do podcasts. We can give that insight, but I kind of also don't want it just to be about footy, you know?
Yeah.
I love kind of like how we kind of laugh at probably things that should be serious and stuff. So we kind of just want to normalize like silly stuff that like I think everybody stresses over. So it can be a mixture of everything. What do you think people can expect?
I think we get a lot of we got a lot of questions about, say, AFLW and the professionalism, and a lot of people at home are intrigued by it. And we'll just answer any questions that you have. Probably talk through all of our experiences so far, and
just have a hopefully easy to listen to podcast that people can just tune into. I'm not going to say Joanna and Vogue, but it could be funnier. No, joke. Oh God, we really are.
When you call people Joanna and their name is Joanne, and you always give out because people call you Joanna.
Oh my God, because I had a brain fart there. I was like, is it Joanna or is it Joanna? I know that is a hypocrite.
Anyway, lads, let's get going. We have a couple of topics to go through today. Topic number 1. This is off to a great start.
Well, oh yeah. So if we could do a podcast and it was soaring, going really well, who would you want to have a guest on the podcast?
I would love to probably interview a few of the AFL men lads, like Zach Toohey, get his experience as well. Yeah. I'd love to sit down and chat to Zach, because he's had a phenomenal AFL career and it is continuing. And then someone completely off radar, like I'm obsessed with Luke Combs. I would love to have Luke Combs on our podcast.
Okay. I reckon I could sort that out, you know?
How about you?
Yeah, actually, exactly. Is a very good one, I think. Like, because I feel like it's a whole different experience for the men versus the women in the AFL. And even, like, some of them young guys that got signed for Carlton. Did you see that? There's 2 18-year-old Irish guys getting signed for Carlton now. So, I think someone like that would be really interesting to see their experience of coming over and how different it is going in from the men to the women, because obviously they're like 12-month contracts and stuff too.
Yeah.
Although next year we are. Well, I don't know who else I would like on. Who, like, I feel like someone funny, like Tommy Tiernan would be very good.
Tommy Tiernan would be unreal.
Sorry, like him and Hector and Loretta. Yeah. Oh my God, their podcast that's out now is so freaking fun.
Well, for anyone who doesn't know who Tommy Tiernan or Hector are, they're 2 Irish comedians, and you could just sit down and laugh to them, but they have some very profound thoughts as well. Like, they're funny, they're lighthearted, but then they actually do kind of chat about the serious part of life as well.
Yeah, I love Tommy Tiernan's talk about, like, you know, like, we need more daydreamers. And I was like, I'm a daydreamer. Like, you know. But I'm definitely a deep thinker. So a lot of these things will be like, oh, I wonder why that is. Anyway, but yeah, Anyway.
Yeah, their podcast is awesome. If you want to listen to that, that is Tommy Hector and Larissa Blewett.
This is me. Like, can we talk about Meg coming with a full face of makeup to this podcast? Didn't tell me. And I'm like this, and now I feel like I can't wear my glasses because I look like a wee dork. So now I can't see the screen in front of me.
Oh, all right. And also, we did a practice run a week ago or two, and I looked like my head and my hair were just one. I was that red. My mom messaged me and was just like, please make sure you have some sort of concealer on.
But yes, I feel like Tommy and Hector and Larissa Blewett is probably one of the non-footy podcasts that I would listen to, and Joanne McNally and Vogue. Yeah. I feel like you introduced me to them. I actually tried to listen to them initially and I didn't really like Vogue and Joanne. I feel like, I don't know, couldn't get into it. And then, you know, when you're in the zone sometimes of like self-development podcasts and stuff like that, and I think, no,
it gets too much. Yeah.
Whereas now I'm like, I need to switch off from that thing. So especially on the way to training and stuff, like I love listening to like lighthearted, just like kind of remind you that fucking there's more to life than football and being serious and fucking self-development. And sorry for cursing all the time, but that's why I love kind of just like lighthearted stuff like Joanne and Vogue and Tommy and Hector. You listen to loads.
Yeah, I listen to loads, like during Gary, he's one as well. Oh, yeah. And then the two Johnnies, absolutely obsessed with the two lads. Every Monday I switch it on driving to work at 4 a.m. and they just crack me up.
And then I suppose the non-official podcast is the voice notes to friends at home. That's, you wake up and they're like 10-minute voice notes that feels like a podcast.
100%.
I suppose what should the listeners expect from our podcast?
To be honest, I think just some truth about everything. Like, you know, like some taboo situations as well, or conversations that you and I have on the daily. Just normalize a few bits. Talk about like AFLW, talk about Gaelic football, talk about everything that we do in a day. Like, I feel like our weeks to be just jam-packed and just about our lives.
I feel like a podcast is definitely more like there's Instagram versus reality, and I feel like a podcast is an easier way to kind of, I suppose, get the reality across. In my opinion, I like the idea of a podcast because even myself, when I post things, like, you know, you see the deadly photo from training, but like you also don't see the side that, oh fuck, you're told you're not in the team that week, or, you know. So I feel like a podcast is easier to kind of get across the reality of the situations and stuff. So I suppose just normalizing that it's not all fucking pictures on Instagram and you know what it's painted to be like, and just kind of, I suppose, answer any questions about moving to Australia, all that jazz. So I suppose we could even talk about how, like, me and Meg had completely different journeys moving to Australia, and do you want to start on how you moved to Australia, how you became out here? How I became out here. Again, Australia.
So in 2019, myself and my best friend Theresa Ryan.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay.
Myself and my best friend Tess, we just kind of picked up our life. We had one 21 kg suitcase because we were too cheap to buy like the 30 kg one. And we hopped on a flight. We went to Bali for a month, and then after Bali we were like, we're going to do a couple of months in Australia, and it was just to have a bit of sheer crack, to go over, experience something different. And I am the biggest home bird you will ever meet, so I planned on staying maybe till Christmas, so like maybe 4 or 5 months max. Like, all my friends at home had it chalked down. There was like a few bets on and stuff. But anyway, we landed in Australia. Absolutely loved it. Lived in Sydney for the first year. Just partied up. Really enjoyed kind of being away from home and all that aspect. And then when you come over on a 417 visa, so it's a work and holiday visa, you have to go and do rural work. And COVID had hit. So myself and Tess packed up our little Mazda 3. It was like this blue little lunchbox of a car, right? And like the noises it made. We drove like 18 hours into the desert. Like, I can't describe to you. Like, there was nothing around. It was just bleakness, dust. Yeah, in the middle of COVID, landed in this nice little rural town. The first time I landed there, so the whole time we were driving out, Tess was like, Tess was the one that was kind of falling apart a bit. She was like, why are we doing this? Like, let's just turn around. And I was like, no, we're fine. Get our road work done. COVID will be over and we'll be back out. We pulled up and then Tess somehow got all this strength and I just started bawling, crying, lads. Like, my lip was just quivering. Like, I was absolutely hagging. I was like, let's just turn back around. But ended up staying there for a year, actually. And that's where I started playing football. Just with a local club, South Roos. It was so much fun. And then I went down to Adelaide to play in the Sandville League, which was awesome. So I was in Adelaide for 6 to 7 months as well, living with one of my best friends, actually. At the time, we won a premiership with Sandville and the Roos, and then I was drafted to Essendon and I moved down to Melbourne. And that's basically my Australian little trip in a very short amount of time.
And would you always have stayed? Did you expect to stay as long? Like, were you one of those people like, oh, I'm only going out for a few months, I'm only going out for the year, and I'll definitely be home after the year? Or were you always kind of intending to stay on?
No, so like I got so homesick, like I can't describe to you. Like, I went on a trip once that was supposed to be for 5 days with the Scouts. Right, hopped on this now. My mom, lads, and dad was like, "Are you sure you want to go? Like, you can't come home because we're in Jersey, so we're on a boat." I was like, "No, mom and dad, I'm going to do it. It's only 5 days. It's 4 nights, 5 days."
Oh my
lads! I got there. I was on the boat. Let's say we were an hour into the boat journey. Started bawling. Had to like literally get a flight home once I landed on the boat. Flew back to Ireland. So when I say I was going to Australia, the anxiety in me was next level. I honestly thought I'd make it to Christmas and then I'll be home. Like, genuinely, I just didn't think I would be able to just leave home for that long without my family and my friends and just my familiarities. Like, I'm such a creature of habit that leaving home was genuinely like a massive thing for me.
Oh my God, that's mad. And how did your family expect you to be home?
Yeah, 100%. Like, my dad was like, yeah, go, babe. But like, he was like, she'll be home.
So what changed? Or why do you think? Or just...
I think it was just the experiences that I had, like coming over with my best friend. Like, I trust Tess with like all my life. Like, if she, you know, like, it was just nice to have her. Like, she was like a sister. And then we actually lived with her sister and her boyfriend in Sydney, and they just took us in as if we were one of their own.
Do you think that made it though, knowing people here? Like, do you feel like...
Oh my God, 100%. Yeah. Like, when I came home in the evenings, I was coming home to like family type of a thing.
Then what would you say to ones thinking of going out, but you don't have anyone to go with? They're, you know...
Well, then I suppose when I moved to Adelaide, I actually didn't have anybody either. So I actually experienced that. No. So Tess went back to Sydney. And then I went down to Adelaide. And that was really, really hard. But I don't know, it's kind of a different experience as well. You're kind of a little bit more liberated. Like, you kind of have to force yourself to chat to other people. You really have to like I suppose just get into the environment that you're at. Literally in primary school, like, hello,
friends.
Will you play with me today?
It's so much harder when you're an adult, isn't it, to make friends? Like, that's the hardest thing.
I actually don't find it that hard now. No. I think it's like the initial, like, just the fear of rejection and the fear of someone just being like, you weirdo type of thing.
No, but I feel like like, Meg, if you're describing a person that I feel like I don't know, because like I'm like, how would you not have moved away from home? And how, you know, I feel like you've obviously changed a lot in the last 4 or 5 years when you've been over here, and it gets easier the more you do it. And now I feel like you're so far the other side of the spectrum that you're like inviting people to be your friend that really you shouldn't be friends with. Like. But yeah, that's funny actually. That is mad. And so basically that started your footy journey, because tell them about, like, so you started playing on your farm work just with a local footy team.
Yeah, just with a local footy team.
And you got picked for like a blitz, was it? Is that like equivalent to a blitz? Basically,
like a blitz at home, like county champs it was. So like, just say the 4 teams in Broken Hill, like so many got picked out of each of them, and then we amalgamated into one big group. Traveled down to Adelaide, and we actually won that competition, which, like, I'm not gonna lie, we were a bus of delinquents. And we were just going down for a party, ended up winning. It was so incredible. And then that's where my whole kind of more professional footy career started then.
Yeah, because so basically a club in Adelaide had seen you at that competition.
Yeah. and kind of
still local level was that, or was that say
so this was Sandfil, so the equivalent of VFL.
Okay, so for anyone that doesn't know, VFL just stands for Victorian Football League. So Sandfil is just South Australia Football League. So it's essentially the one step down from AFLW.
So it's basically like playing for your county at home.
Would it not be more like your
province maybe?
Oh no, your county and then your province might be like AFL. Yeah, I know. How do you describe it?
I don't know actually.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to. Yeah, so it's kind of like you're one step closer, or you're basically the next step up is AFLW.
Yeah.
And then you were a train on for Port.
And then actually after 3 years I went home.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I went home after 3 years, had the time of my life, and then Port Adelaide rang me to say, hey, do you want to train on with us? And basically what a train on is that you just are a volunteer.
I think it's scholarship a volunteer.
You're a volunteer. Because, you know, you're playing and training with this group of girls who get paid $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 to play this game, and you're just training with them. Now, I say that, but like you're getting the experience and you're getting the development, and it's awesome and everything. But basically, you're just going in training with them for free. So I did that with Port Adelaide. I actually only did one session with them, and then randomly got this phone call one day. I was working in a warehouse on a Friday, and this random phone number rang me, so I answered it, and I was like, hello, and they're like, hey, this is Georgia Harvey from Essendon Football Club. We've had an injury, and we were just looking at your clips from Sandfil, and we'd love to fly you down, do a trial day tomorrow, and just assess to see if you'd be like fit in with our AFLW squad, beliefs, culture, etc.
Crazy. And that is actually Brince's story about how we first met, because it was traumatic for me.
So you know when all the Irish girls kind of come in and congregate in one team and they all get on really, really well together and it's flawless transition. Well, with myself and Joanne, I was told there was an Irish girl that played with a green colour jersey at home.
Is that all the
yeah.
Oh my God.
Like, we have a girl called Joanne and she plays with a green colour jersey. So I was like, oh, Kerry, maybe. And I was never going to say it from that. And then got to the training and they were like, where's Joanne? And I was like, who is Joanne? Anyway, Joanne wasn't at training.
This, like, if anyone knows me and like my like punctuality is fucking like the main thing that I freaking pride myself on. Well, did I set a fucking alarm for training? Oh my God, I slept in, and my housemate at times Sarah, my best friend, and she was meant to be working from home from 7 o'clock in the morning. I stormed into her room. I was like, why didn't you wake me? Blah, blah. She was asleep and her meant to be working from home. Anyway, I live like 40 minutes from the club. This was like 9 o'clock training, like you were meant to be in the club at 8. Talk about flustered. Anyway, broke every speed limit under sun to get there. Got there. Literally on the brink of tears because I was so stressed. And I was like, why did no one ring me? They obviously thought I was out the night before, which is scandalous. And they were like, oh, Joanne, this is Meg Ryan. And I was like, hi. I was like, obviously rushing around the place. Rude, she says. I was just trying to get into training to like slide in there and pretend like I just didn't miss an hour of training. Like, and they were like talking, I was like, hello. And then literally didn't even realise that Meg was obviously going to get signed for us.
So I went home and like everyone was like, how'd you get on? I was like, lads, it was lovely, but the Irish girl was a bit
like... shut up. I actually felt so sorry. I messaged her after and I was like, oh my God, I feel like I was so rude to you whenever.
No, you only messaged me after I got drafted. You didn't want to know me unless I was drafted.
Oh, well, yeah, you know how it is. Feel that whenever we first met that it was more of a... I suppose didn't know what really was going to happen because if anyone doesn't know, you can get signed if someone gets injured. So you'd like 10 weeks of preseason. If someone gets injured, you have until like the week before the first round, is it? And so Meg, obviously, we had done kind of like the whole preseason. Meg was at home fucking having the time of her life while we were doing
preseason. Was feeding me breakfast, lunch, dinner.
And then she came out and got signed. But it's obviously so hard to come into team literally before round one, like the week before round one. So yeah, at the start it was kind of because we didn't have much time to bond because it was like straight into games and there's always pressure. Obviously, if the Irish girls like you kind of feel like you have to get along and all. Yeah. So I was like, oh God, I wonder what this is gonna be like. But wasn't I impressed? Like, but
impressed with my footy skills, yeah.
No,
actually, yeah, footy or football. What do you call it?
I was just like, I should look at Malsey now, you know. Nah. I feel like over here you just kind of get into the way of adding a Y or an IE to everything. Like everything. It goes from footy to football to footy. Like like Joe isn't Joe, it's Joey.
Yeah.
Like Meg is Maggie. You know, like you can't, like everything's just
everything's abbreviated.
Yeah.
Like E's or O at the end of everything. Like
think of a word and just make it lazier. Like the MCG is shortened to the G. Like it's 3 words. Why do you need to shorten
3 letters?
3 letters.
Yeah.
Not even words. Sorry. Yeah. It's just
so the MCG is like a big like footy ground here. So it's
Park,
the
like
Melbourne Cricket Ground is what it's called.
Yeah.
And they call it the MCG. So yeah, footy.
I suppose this year is a lot different in that the CBA hadn't been agreed. So the CBA is essentially like the collective bargaining agreement, which is kind of like the like Gaelic Players Association at home. Obviously, because it's paid out here, there was a massive deal that had to be agreed for like 5 years, and the men and the women had agreed to come together, kind of similar to the GPA. And then this year there was, I suppose, massive progress. I was literally only released this week about how the like minimum or the average salary from next year to 2027 is up like 77%, which is obviously massive.
Yeah.
Like, and so for like a woman, like the start, like I think the minimum salary this year is like 39,000.
Yeah. So when I got drafted last year, I'm pretty sure it was $39,852.73.
Oh. But who's got
after tax? Nah, I'm gonna admit that's before tax. But yeah, so that was last year. And then this year, just yesterday, it actually got announced, like the new CBA, the new contract, and the women's footy has gone from a 6-month contract now to a 12-month contract. Yeah. When does that start, actually?
I think it's next year. Next season, the 12-month contracts kicks in. But like, so the difference, just to kind of give reference, like the AFL seem to be progressing a lot better, I suppose, than, look, it's still a long way to go, but a lot better than last year's. Like other sports, in that when I first came over here in 2019 to play for Carlton, I was getting $16,000 for 6 months. I honestly don't know how I lived. No other job. We couldn't work because your visa, you can't work on the sporting visa.
Oh, yes.
So, but like, I still travel and all. I don't understand how. But anyway, COVID hit, came back, inflation, and then the wages, thank God, had went up since we signed last year. I think went up dramatically last year.
There was like
from the previous year. Yeah. It was like nearly double, actually, wasn't it? So that was kind of the start of it, and now it's just been agreed. So I suppose the 12-month contract, I suppose the girls, we kind of had it perfect, the Gaelic girls, because it used to run over like the Christmas months at home, but the whole season last year got shifted to start at the end of June, like pre-season, and then into like matches starting the last week in August, which obviously doesn't align with the championship at home, any of the girls that play county and stuff. So it kind of gave a lot of girls an ultimatum, and a lot of teams the ultimatum with their players to be kind of like, no, we're either, if you're contracted, we're not allowing you to go home. Obviously, there's a risk of injury and all that stuff. And obviously, with respect to the other players, that, like, you know, you have to be seen to be doing the preseason and stuff like that. Whereas, like you see, with like Melbourne and some of them teams are really good at allowing the girls to still go home and play for the county and come back out. Because to be honest, a lot of them prove that like they're coming out in just as good shape.
Yeah.
Obviously, the skills and stuff, just getting back into playing footy, but I'm sure them girls at home are doing the same. So, I'm assuming it's going to be the same next year with regards to 12-month contracts. But the only thing is, obviously, it's 12 months, but the games and the season length does not change. So, or it only goes up like 2 games. So it goes from 10 games to 12 games. So the time shouldn't really change for the girls. You're not going to be training for 12 months of the year as such. Like your pre-season will still be the 10 weeks.
You're contracted for 6 months now. Now they're contracted for 12 months and you're in a contract. So I genuinely think this will change for the LGF.
Oh, you reckon?
Yeah, 100%. They are now contracted for that full year out here.
But sure, we were contracted for 8 months this year, you see. We were paid from April. But sure, them girls, and like a lot of the girls, like, you know, like Ashley Maloney, Jennifer Dunn, them
I
girls,
suppose it's going to be up to the discretion of each individual club.
Yeah. It's going to be, it has to be.
That's actually, it's going to be very interesting to see what does happen next season in regards to football. That's all. Enough about all my journey and all the contractual and serious stuff. But so Joanne, if anybody doesn't know, you obviously now play for Essendon. But before that, actually before COVID, you were out here as probably one of the first girls to play football. Like I'm like.
Yeah, there was a few kind of trailblazers like Cora Staunton, Sarah Rowe, all them girls. Like there was a group, I suppose, after the cross coders started, there was a group of them came out and a lot of them got signed from that. And then the following year, cross coders actually held a camp. Like, because nobody knew about it, did they? Like,
I had no idea what Australian football was like.
Even like Core and them were playing it, but nobody really knew like or how to get into it, or you kind of assumed that's Core because like obviously she would have got picked. But
so the cross coders, what was that?
Cross coders was essentially they were trying to recruit girls from other sports to come and try out to do AFLW, and all the data from like the fitness tests, all your like skill sessions were recorded. All that footage and stuff was sent to the Australian club. So like it was held in Athlone, and that was 2019. And like I say this all the time, like I wasn't even going to bother going because it was down in Athlone. I was like, what am I doing? I was like, it just worked out that we had a bye from county that weekend. I was like, frick it, I'm going to go down anyway and see what the crack is. And like Anya Tai and all them girls are there. Yeah. Oh. So like that's kind of where it all started from with a lot of the girls, you know, and that was the year Neve and Grace Kelly, Maria Choga, Aileen Gilroy, that was their first year. So it was really interesting to see. So I went and I was actually such good crack with all the girls, like just giving it a go. And like I was kind of thinking, what's the point? But then when you go and you're like, actually, you know what, I'm not bad at this, but you have no reference. Like, you know, you're playing with Irish girls, so we all think we're great. But like when in reality you come out to Australia, you're like, oh Jesus, okay, maybe I'm not that great. But yeah, essentially, all the footage was sent. I had a like phone interview with Carlton that Sunday, and literally hadn't heard anything.
So they'd watch your footage and then they rang you.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and rang full interview with the list manager. Was chatting away. Literally heard nothing. Went back. Was captain of county that year. Literally focused. I was like, literally that was our main focus. And literally in a random end of July. So that was April, May time. And in July, my agent at the time, Jason Hill, who was like over the cross coders, was like, will you go to Australia for a weekend? So I flew to Australia for basically 3 days to meet Carlton, the club that was really interested. Kicked about. I actually did a training session with the VFL the night before. And then I had an interview with the team.
On God's earth, did you come here for a weekend?
Oh my God. And I was like, fine. Was not jet lagged. And bear in mind though, I was captain of county and I fucking had to go between the week before.
Were you captain of county?
I'm just saying the emphasis that what the hell was I doing? Like as in, like it was bad that I was probably leaving to go do these things. Like, but it was the week before the All Ireland semi. And I was like, shit. But I was like, look, when are you ever going to say you're going to do this again?
100%.
So went, and on the way home, I was in Hong Kong when I got the email to say that Carlton wanted to offer me a contract, and that was it. Went out to 2019.
But wait now, did you play the next weekend then?
Yeah, I played the next weekend, but didn't get starting. I got dropped from the starting position, came on, and we just about beat London then, so I was like, don't you do that again. No, I'm joking. But yeah, but look, it's a good, like this is another thing about like standards at home and like respect at home about like, you know, having to live up to your expectations. And like, I suppose, well, I don't know, definitely at county at the time was a lot better. Like some of the professionalism out here for being professional sports isn't as good as you probably would imagine. Like, and I think that's probably another reality check that whenever you start paying players, it's a lot different than at home when everybody wants the same thing. So, but yeah, basically went out, played with Carlton, got 2 games with Carlton, and I suppose the reality of freaking footy, COVID hit, got literally told on the Wednesday, we think you should go home before the flights are cancelled, was home on the Saturday, obviously isolating, nobody had a clue what was going on with COVID. And basically did the whole pre-season, like still in contact, really good positive feedback. Honestly, like I mean 8-9K sessions in cold Ireland pre-season.
You were in some tip-top shape.
And literally, and then 3 weeks before to sign to confirm that we're coming back out, they were like, no, sorry, we don't need you anymore. And I was like, I have just said 4 or 5 months of pre-season. But anyway, that was when it hit home that I was like, this is a business. Like this isn't like you can't take it personal. It's literally just they are trying to get the best team out of their picks. So yeah, so basically I kind of felt like at the time I didn't realize, but I definitely wasn't in the mental headspace. I was doubting everything I was doing. I nearly felt like nearly like a sense of I shouldn't be good at this already. And like I wasn't necessarily playing off instincts. I was overthinking everything.
It's like
and,
imposter syndrome.
Yeah, literally, I just kind of felt like I wasn't doing that as well. Like so I learned a lot about myself in them few years and doing that pre-season. And then I was like, you know what, fuck it, when the borders open again, I really want to go back out and give it another crack. So borders open, played county, won the Ulster with club, which was phenomenal. So I'm so glad I was home for that. And then
captain.
Yeah, it does. Oh my god. And then I came back out when the borders opened after our club football finished and played BFL with Essendon and then got signed to Essendon. And that was my journey. So mine's a wee bit different to like people coming out in the working holiday visa. I suppose I got the best of both worlds, and that I came out, I experienced it, I realised, I definitely want to go back. When I was coming back out to play VFL, I did come out in a working holiday visa because I was like, look, if I don't get signed, at least I can go travelling and do everything that I still wanted to do out here. But then moved on to the sporting visa basically whenever I got signed again. And that has brought it up to now.
Yeah, and so we obviously played together last year. And then the 2023 AFLW season kicked off 3 weeks ago. And it is round 4 this weekend. And our very own Joanne Doonan is in the team, baby. Woo! We are back.
We are back, baby.
We are back.
Yeah, it's funny because obviously we had recorded our first podcast a few weeks ago, and I was not in the team after, and it was probably like I wanted to emphasize the reality of like, you know, it's bloody shit when you're on the fringe of the team and you're busting your arse and you're doing everything, but then that's also footy, like. And I was trying to like, I can't even remember what my point was back then about like, I think it's just like the reality of things being out of your control, and sometimes you can get so caught up in your own head. And I think that is just sport in general. Like I think we think, like, I know without a doubt I'm in like a privileged position, like that my problems of not making the team is not real world problems. Like, you know, I'm not.
It's all relevant though, Joe.
I know, but like we're not sitting wondering where our next meal is coming from, you know. So we're very lucky in that sense. But I do think it was definitely a bit of a reality check. But I also think, like I was saying to Meg, when you get in the team after not being in the team and like fucking working your arse off and like learning mentally to stop overthinking things that's out of your control is like I suppose that's what resilience is in a way. Like that you feel so much bloody better for it 100%. And getting in the team to be like, like, you know, so yes, it's very exciting this weekend to get my first hit out this year after playing basically every game last year, and so it was definitely a change from the first season. So yeah, that's footy, and that's my journey in Australia, really. Like,
so if you want to catch our Joey this Sunday at 3:05 p.m. Eastern Australian time,
I was like, where are you going with that?
AFLW app, download it and watch it there.
God! But I think that's probably too like how you miss home and like the reality of sometimes how far away you are from home and shit like that. Like things aren't going your way, and I think also moving out here on the working holiday visa, like I thankfully didn't have to do the farm work, but you're only really settled before you're kind of like, shit, we have to go do farm work if we want to stay again. And like all the houses aren't furnished. They're not, you know, they're not like normal where you can ring your dad.
That was bizarre. I remember like our first apartment went in, there was nothing. I was like, what?
I know, like, where's everything?
I was like, where's the couch? Like, where's the dishwasher? Where's the washing machine? I was like, and then you go and you try and buy these things, and then they're like thousands. You're like, what the?
I know, there's so much you don't account for.
Oh my God. And saucepans. Like, I've never had to buy a saucepan before in my life. And knives and forks. And oh my God. I know,
you take so much for granted, I think, whenever you're living home.
So much for granted.
But yeah, that's probably the biggest thing I've kind of found, like, when things aren't going well, like, is how much you miss home. But I think
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, somebody had told me I work at like a gym for like pregnant mums and all, but majority of them's Irish and they've been out here 12 years of kids and all that. But they were saying like a man said to them, he was a foreign guy too, like us, you know, in this country. But he was like, you know, why did you move over here? And they just started, you know, talking about it. And they were like, will you ever move home? And they were like, no, I don't think so. And he was like, you know, you'll never be content again, because you'll move home and you'll constantly be thinking, oh yeah, okay, shit, maybe I should have stayed out there. Or you stay here and you constantly feel like guilt of wanting to go home and you want to see your family. But yeah, it's just I suppose the
best thing about it is, though, I think we're very lucky because obviously I've gone through a lot with being delisted this year too. And if I didn't have you, like, living in the same house as me, I genuinely think that it would have been a different roller coaster for me. Like, whereas I kind of always had your support, I could always come home and, you know, you were so familiar and stuff. So we're lucky that we are like living together, friends. Like,
I feel like for anyone that does not know Megan, I think this just paints a picture.
No, I don't. I can't.
No, but I just want to paint a picture of like Meg's attitude, and I cannot describe. Like, so she basically, we'll talk about your delisting story in a wee minute.
Well, we can get into another time as well.
Yeah, but Megan basically got delisted on the Friday, like probably the latest point she could have been told that she wasn't going to be picked for the team. And I had runs for the same fucking team that she got delisted from on the Saturday. And I was like, oh, fuck, you know, can be arse going to do the running. And Megan's like, come on. Megan came, did the runs with me. It made me freaking, like, busted my arse running.
Oh, please, don't give me that crap. We were way ahead of me.
No, I'm talking about, like, skills and all. They were like, no, right, come on, we're not finishing until you do this right. No, like, everything. And I was like, how? Like, if I, like, whenever I got delisted from Carlton, I remember being like, fuck them and fuck this, you know, and throwing a strap. Like, whereas, like, this was the day after you were like, and that is the epitome of Meg. Like, me and James, my partner, like, always like laugh about how Meg always lands on her feet. Like, she come home and she, I got a free iPhone today, and I was like, or literally her friend gave her like a free iPhone. Comes home with like a free Frank Green bottle. And I'm like, how? And I genuinely put it down to what a positive person you are, and I just think you're just like attracting good energy. So there you have it. But anyway, talk about your delisting story though, so people get a picture of the reality of footy too.
So yeah, at the start of this year, I was home in Ireland, and again having the time of my life. And then I was always told that I didn't know if I had a contract for the following season, but I also didn't get delisted in the initial delisting, so it was kind of looking a little bit more promising than I actually already probably imagined it would be. So I came back out here in February, and I was February. Came back out here in February. I landed on St. Bridget's Day. So I came back out in Feb, let's say. And then I had a couple of weeks of, again, pre-season, but before this, like, we were doing run-ins, like, I'd say the week after we stopped, like, we finished season.
Yeah.
We were doing a lot of runs, a lot of skills and stuff still. So when I was home, I kept that up. And then I came back out in Feb. We did a couple of, like, 3-4 weeks, whereas you were in the club doing more skill sessions, running sessions, kind of like involuntary, like optional. Yeah.
But we probably paint a picture. So the season basically ended in November, and then you have like exit meetings, which is basically you go review your year, and then essentially after that, a few people get let go. Usually tended to be like minimum like 3 players usually. So that already happened. So Meg, this was like what, like 4 months on. So you're kind of thinking, right, okay, I haven't been told that I'm not making it, but then it comes to that kind of crunch time where there's like basically like a draft and free agency and things like that. So you're kind of hoping it comes. You're just sitting on edge for literally 4 months.
Yeah. So even actually, when I was home, I obviously, like, I love being at home with my fam and stuff, and it was lovely. But actually, in the back of my mind all the time was like, am I going back out to Australia for the sake of just going back out to Australia, or am I going back to Australia to play a season with AFLW? And obviously, when you get a taste of it, you really, really want. Like, I really want to play AFLW again. You know what I mean? So coming back out is like I'm a person that does not suffer with anxiety, and I cannot tell you, like, it was crippling for months. Like, it was like, what am I doing with my life? Like, so many questions. It was a freaking awful time in my life.
And you can't plan anything.
Can't plan anything.
Like, I might be
obviously, we're on visas because we're Irish. So, like, I was on a working holiday visa. It was my last one. I was like, do I need to go home? Back at home to Ireland, get a job back there, settle back there. Like, what am I going to do? Anyway, I got told very late that I was getting delisted. And the later you get told, obviously, you don't have many opportunities to talk to other clubs or kind of reach out, see what other clubs are looking for. So I got delisted like a week before the draft, which wasn't the best thing to happen. and it was a very hard time. So I got delisted on a Friday, and I literally had to play a VFL game 7 days later. And
then there's the emphasis on that, like, this game you're playing under pressure of, like, you have to play your best game because this is your last opportunity to get seen by clubs.
Yeah.
And it's just...
So you've been delisted, you're like doubting everything, like, am I a good footballer? Like, what? Like, every doubt that can possibly come into your head comes into your head, and then you have to go and play a game and be phenomenal. And then I was played in a position where I probably shouldn't have been. Anyway, moving on. Couple of months later, I am happy out. Let's just emphasize that before we go back into it. So I got delisted, and then the people that I was living with at the time, they were moving to Western Australia. So I was homeless, I was delisted, I was jobless. Bingo.
So Meg was at the peak of her life.
Breakdown, like mental breakdown. It was.
And thankfully at this stage we got closer throughout the season. And I think like even going out at the end of the season is where everybody really got closer. Yeah. And I realised Meg is an absolute header. But so I was in with my best friend, and Sarah had moved in with her boyfriend, so we actually had a spare room. So the timing was pretty immaculate. Perfect, so me and James, my partner, we were like, well, we offered to Meg, and we're like, Jesus, this could be either like, you know, it could be the best and worst thing that we could offer. But anyway, it worked out well. Meg ended up moving in with us, and the rest is history.
The rest is history.
Now we're the three best friends.
Honestly, like today I just like, James is so funny. He came home from work and he's like, I haven't like hung out with you in so long. So
he's turned into a wee girl.
Yeah, living with the two of you definitely was a turning point of the year. Like, it kind of saved me. It definitely saved me from just, I suppose, like going home and all that stuff. He kind of settled me back into life. Just kind of dealt with me, and that shit, like a little bit of shit time.
Mm-hmm. And we probably live, like, we are very fortunate to, like, we live right beside the beach. So I think it's like the best thing in the world whenever you're like, your head's fried, you just need to get outside. And even when it's raining, like, it's just class to kind of clear your head out here too. Like, but yeah, we are very fortunate to have Meg living with us, and it is, it
has been fun, hasn't it? We'll probably go into more stories down the episodes when we get more comfortable. If you don't follow Joanne on Instagram, she has this fitness page, and she does
plug.
Joanne Doonan Fitness, JoanneDoonanFitness.com. So Joey does these daily thoughts, and may I say, ever since my mother got, like, she was like, Joanne has 2 Instagrams, started following Joanne's fitness page, and now is obsessed with her daily thoughts. Joanne has not posted these daily thoughts in 4 days, and my mother has mentioned it every single day. So Joey does like just daily thoughts about her own thoughts, and I think they're so like just normal everyday thoughts that we probably just wouldn't verbalize, that we all have. And some of them are very profound, some of them are very funny, and some of them I actually question why I'm friends with her.
But I mean,
when did you start doing these, or why, or like how did it all come about?
It's literally so weird. It's literally like an anniversary of when I moved out, because when I moved out, I was literally living with my friend Emma and Luke, and they, like, I was like, I had nothing to do. I was literally just looking for apartments, so I had loads of free times. And at the time, like, I think there was a few Instagram like influencers that like had started doing coffee thoughts, and I was like, that's actually probably a really easy way to do content on my page. So here you could go spend an hour doing like a freaking workout video or whatever that would get like 3 views, and these coffee thoughts pop off. Anyway, so I literally just started doing nearly like a diary entry, like I saying, oh, this is what I did today. And then like a random thought at the end, and literally the response from like everybody just being like, oh my god, that was so relatable, blah blah blah. It was actually really good. So I was like, fuck it, this is actually funny, we'll just keep this going. And yeah, I think the more I realized, the more I think we think we're alone and thinking all our thoughts, and that, like, am I a weirdo for thinking that, or like, Jesus, I'm like, you judge yourself, you're like, I'm a loser for thinking that, or I'm a, you know, like, you beat yourself up about it.
Yeah.
So then if you see someone post about it, you're like, actually, you know, and then you kind of also realize how we're all so bloody alike, and that, you know, like, you know, when people try to be unique, you know, it's like, no, you're not, like, you know, we are. But anyway, yeah, I love the idea of like taboo subjects, and maybe it's from like coaching and stuff, but freaking just even getting across to young girls, and like not even just girls, like people that like, you know, don't get in your head about freaking stupid things, like, you know, like I don't know, like everybody's in their own head, so like, like, you know, who gives a shit? Like, so, like, some of our thoughts can be so random, though. Like,
some
you
of
know,
our thoughts are funny. Like,
yeah. Like, like, we'll explain the one today, but it was a bit deep. Like, there was this, like, also living in the city, you also come across a lot of weird people. Like, but this guy, like, drove past us.
He cycled.
Cycled past
balaclava up to his eyes, like, had a helmet on.
And he did that, like, you know, where you cut your throat symbol, but he wasn't even looking at anyone. And I was like, Meg, did you see that? You know, when you're
Joanne thought the world was going to end.
Like, I was like, this man's going to, like, I was like, and then it made me think, like, he could have been away the mall or someone. Like, how do you know?
But it is bizarre that we all just walk around every day. We don't know who we're walking past. We don't know what thoughts they're having. They could do anything. Like, realistically, if we didn't have morals, we could be stabbing people. But Joanne, like, I'm serious. Like, we could just pull your hair. Like, I could just be walking past you, pull your hair. You know what I mean? We're just all out here, like, living free lives, and
we just put ourselves at risk every time we go.
Yeah, every single time we go out here.
Oh my god!
Anyway, why we're talking about Joey's thoughts is I reckon we should end the podcast every week with some of Joanne's thoughts.
Yeah, well, I feel my thought of this week, I try to think about it and try to get a real, like, you know, profound one or whatever. But I think this is just a good thought-provoking one of when is the last time you belly laughed? We were talking about adults. Like, do you actually laugh as an adult the way you laughed as a child? Do you know what I mean? Like, and you lose that. Like, I think that's so important. Like, to just fucking let go a little and just let yourself laugh.
You have to be with a very, like,
comfortable.
Like, yeah, you have to be really comfortable with people. Like,
to belly laugh.
Like, to belly laugh. Yeah.
Like, what? Like, when's the last time you belly laughed?
Like, I feel like we are definitely very good at belly laughing in this house.
We also have a fine line of probably very annoying and not giving a fuck our poor neighbours.
But when I belly laugh, and I'm sure we all do this, like, I'm limp. I become limp, and I just, like, I'm just weak, and I can't do anything, and I can't breathe, and, like, there's tears coming out of my eyes. Anyway, me and Joanne were in the car one day, a couple of weeks ago. And I always just, like, I will talk to anybody, lads. Like, I'll say hello to people. And if I walk past someone, like, geez, you smell lovely. I don't know why. I have no filter and I say it. Anyway, Joanne was like, I'm going to do that to people.
I try to get confidence because, like, I not ignore people, but I just can't be walking around my own business. Whereas Megan be listening to other people's conversations and would respond to them, like, and us not even.
Do not respond.
Anyway, sorry. But we also have this thing in the car when we're driving with each other that we have to dare each other to do things. So can I just give a bit of context and I'm not a weirdo and just saying this? Anyway, you know when that video of when you're in the traffic lights parked beside someone and you tell the person that their keys are, you know, still in the door or something like that you dared. So anyway, of course, the traffic stopped. Meg was driving. Meg was like, go on, do something. And this woman was walking past with a lovely hat on her, right? And she stared straight at me. And I was like,
she was staring
into my soul, it felt like. And I was just like, oh my God, I love your hat. And I was like, this was put myself out of my comfort zone to give someone a compliment to hopefully change the day. Well, he just stared through me. And just continued to walk on, didn't say anything, didn't smile, didn't do anything. And well, that was me stopping doing anything nice again. I was like, that was it. And Meg was driving.
Thank God I was at like a red light because I would have stopped the whole street. Like, it was the funniest thing. Like, the woman stared through her. No reaction, no emotion. I think that was the last time I
feel like, this is not encouraging people to step out of their comfort zone, but yeah, that was the last time. But yeah, it was very funny, even if it was at my expense, to be fair. But yeah,
belly laughs are a good thought.
But yeah, well, maybe before this podcast gets really long and Orla has to cut all of this. But yeah, so
all right, lads, if you've listened to us for this long, if you've stayed engaged, if you've understood us, thank you very much for listening.
And if you would do the pleasure of subscribing to the Sideline Live's channels on YouTube and whatever you listen to podcasts on, and see our links to our
and Joanne Doonan Fitness
to see those scary thoughts. Thank you guys. See you in the next episode.
Bye.